Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Trevor Smith Miller. I'm the manager for the communications manager, for the Canadian Cancer Survivor Network. Thank you to everyone who is attending our first webinar of the 2025 season. If you're new to our webinar series, a little background on our group. CCSN works to connect patients, survivors, and other stakeholder groups with decision makers and the wider community to engage in discussion and to act on evidence-based best practices to alleviate the medical, emotional, financial, and social costs of cancer. To learn more, visit our website, survivornet.ca. This webinar is being recorded and will be available on YouTube. A link will be provided with the email that you registered with, along with a link to the slides in this presentation. We will have a quick Q&A session at the end, but if you would like, put your questions at any time in the questions tab on the GoToWebinar menu. And now to introduce our speaker, Dr. Rob Rutledge, a friend of CCSN, is a radiation oncologist in Halifax, Nova Scotia, specializing in breast, prostate, and pediatric cancers, and is an associate professor in the Faculty of Medicine at Dalhousie University. His passion is empowering people affected by cancer and has delivered hundreds of public talks and webinars, including CCSN's, with many retreats and day-long seminars to thousands of cancer survivors. Rob co-leads Cancer PEP, a comprehensive 6-month daily patient empowerment program, and you can go to cancerpep.org to learn more, and we will have a link to that in the webinar description. And so without any further ado, I'd like to hand it over to Dr. Rob Rutledge for his talk, The Complete Guide to the Anti-Cancer Diet.
Thank you, Trevor. It's a real pleasure to present to the group here. I'm just getting my own image up here. I'm just going to try to minimize that so I don't have to look at it. So yeah, it's a huge pleasure to present an extremely important talk. The science is just burgeoning in terms of the microbiome, that those bacteria in our guts, and the molecules and the mechanisms in which diet can actually influence outcomes in cancer. So this is a very important lecture. I gave a similar lecture a year and a half ago, but this is the updated version. Things are happening fast and furious, and I'm really happy for this opportunity. So thank you. So the title is The Anti-Cancer Diet in the PEP program, the science and practice of nurturing yourself. This is extremely important in terms of health and what you can do to actually influence your outcomes. So take home points to start out with. This advice is 30 years old. I've been researching this for many years, and it continues to be that if you add diversity, the colors of the rainbow, whole foods with all the micronutrients that are captured in real food, mostly plant-based and high in fiber, all those things within a diet is actually super important. And I'll give you some practical ideas around that. Next thing is not just what you eat, but when you eat has an influence on your outcome. So try not to get any calories in for at least 12 hours overnight. I'm going to explain that to you and the science behind it. I also want to just be pragmatic, recognizing that there's no one perfect diet, that it's a balanced approach. Don't go to the extremes. Use your mindfulness of what actually works for you, what feels good for you, what empowers you, makes you feel better. And that the idea is that you can slowly change your diet over the weeks and months, because this is really a scenario in which you want to invest in the future and learn what works for you, learn what you love. And then ultimately, it's about kindness and discipline, and especially during treatment, that you may not be able to follow the perfect diet or the diet that you want to during treatment, but it's extremely important just to get those calories in at that time. So it's going to be a fast and furious talk because I'm covering everything that I know about, and I want to make sure you guys have all the information to make the best possible decisions. Okay, so this is what we're covering, right from how is it that diet can cause cancer or create growth, and how is it the diet can prevent recurrence and so on, or reduce the risk of recurrence. And I'm covering all these issues, including the dietary myths, the supplements, shopping, time-restricted eating, the whole business. Okay, so why a healthy diet? Like let's think bigger perspective. Why is it that you want to nourish your body in a way that's best for you? Well, one is you'll get through your treatments more easily, especially if you're in the midst of chemotherapy, radiation, whatever you're going through, you can actually allow your body to get through those treatments more easily, and you'll be happier and give yourself the best chance of recovery. I believe, like, and I think about it from a bigger perspective. I want you to feel happier, brain to work better, for you to function better, for you to be the best version of yourself. And again, diet allows those micronutrients to support all those systems within the body. I'm imagining many of you are going to be cured of your cancer and you've got decades to go. And so let's have that visualization together that you do extremely well. And then what I want is for you to be healthy in every other aspect of your life: heart healthy, weight healthy, diabetes healthy, all these other things that can really have an influence on your health and happiness. So let's invest now. Let's learn now how to do that so that you'll be stronger, happier, and do the things you love to do more often. And also, I think about it, in the midst of cancer, it's this kind of idea of being kind towards yourself. Like, you're doing those things, giving yourself the best chance possible, but especially during treatment, this kind of sense of kindness leads to decreased inflammation and better outcomes and all these other functions that I want you to have. You can share then your knowledge. You can share the knowledge with the greater community, right? Your friends and family can learn from you. In fact, you could be helping them to reduce their risk of getting cancer if you can adopt these healthier habits. Again, the visualization, I want you to be enjoying eating and your diet and nutrition for decades to come. So it's a skill and a knowledge base that you can build over time. So we need to learn this. We need to grow that knowledge and practice and figure out what actually works for your body and your situation. So the idea, first of all, is how is it that cancer begins? So you have a normal cell that gets enough hits to the words and sentences in the middle of the cell that causes the cell to become abnormal and grow in an uncontrolled way. So it's that kind of ongoing hit, damage, inflammation that's kind of knocking away, irritating the cell, degenerating the cell over decades. This is happening over decades, for instance. And so we then want to not have that process go further or faster. I mean, if you were smoking and you caused a cancer, you wouldn't want to keep on smoking afterwards, because you keep on damaging the cells and turning those slow-growing cells into fast-growing cells. So we have the damage or inflammation, irritation that causes the cancer. Then you have the damage that can turn those cells from slow-growing cells into faster-growing cells. And some people can live with their slow-growing cancer for decades. So let's not perturb it. Let's not make things worse for you. So big picture then is, if you know a particular activity like lack of exercise or a sugary diet increases the risk of your type of cancer, then you want to avoid that. If you know that there's an activity like exercise, a healthy diet that helps prevent or decrease the risk of your cancer, you want to adopt that afterwards. So not perturbing, changing the system so that you're not creating more or worse cancer. And then, so that's the words and sentence inside of the cancer cell, but you also have the fluid around the cells, the soup in which the cells are growing. And so those chemicals, those molecules can send signals to the cells to say, keep growing, keep multiplying. We don't want that to happen. We're after a healthy soup. So this idea of inflammation or irritation, the chemicals that are around that are causing the damage, that's one thing that we're trying to mop up or prevent from happening in the first place. And also, for instance, when we have a sugary diet, we eat sugary drinks, the colas, the pops, the fruit juices, we get those spikes in insulin that release insulin-like growth factor. The body is trying to respond to all the sugar in the bloodstream, and it sets up this system where the cells are actually turning over faster, and it's priming cancer. So we're trying to stay away from these kind of fluctuations of sugar going up and down and so on. So, and ultimately, there's this idea of inflammation or irritation. So what you're trying to do is decrease the amount of inflammation in your body, have the body kind of settle down and not having a soup that's bad for you. So there's a whole anti-inflammatory lifestyle that you could be adopting, and we're going to talk about that within the PEP program itself. So the bigger perspective, so this is all within the context of maximizing your chance of recovery and longevity. So the idea is the conventional care, so the medical system plus what you can do to empower yourself, body, mind, and spirit. It's that marriage between the two that gives you the best chance of recovery. And so understanding what's happening, what you can do and what you can't do, what you can control, what you can't control, right? So you have that kind of understanding, and that decreases inflammation just by itself. Like, okay, I've got this, I'm doing what I can, and I can kind of settle into that. I can kind of trust that things are going as best they can. That by itself can decrease the inflammation in your body. Getting the best care from the medical system, right? So you're navigating, negotiating. Why it's so great to work with CCSN is that you kind of learn how to advocate, how to take care of yourself within the medical system. And then there's the empowerment piece. So we're taking off this one tiny slice of the pie, even though it's so important in terms of the dietary part of it. But maintain your reasonable weight, exercise, and getting good night's sleep, practicing relaxation technique, those all have an influence in terms of decreasing the inflammation within the body, as well as the psychological. How can I find meaning and purpose as I'm going forward in the cancer journey? So again, you're seeing this kind of bigger perspective, like, why do I want to recover? What's important to me for me in this lifetime? And you put your focus there, and that empowers the body. That releases your innate capacity. So then the next thing is, I want to just kind of introduce this idea that the bacteria in our gut, called the microbiome, have a profound influence on our immune system. And so I'm thinking about, how is it that cancer develops? Just within this context, how is it that cancer develops? If you have those abnormal cells there, why isn't it the immune system is kind of mopping up the difference? And so 80% of your immune cells are actually in your gut, living with those bacteria. It's almost like a training ground. The bacteria are teaching the immune cells what's normal, what's abnormal, and allowing the immune cells to do the job of recognizing foreign versus self. So super important. The bacteria has a profound influence on the immune system. The immune system has a profound influence on the bacteria. We are not just human cells. We actually are like one ecosystem of cells plus bacteria. The other point is that I'm going to teach you through this lecture is that if you don't take care of those cells will cause inflammation within the body. They'll release the chemicals within the body that are not good for you. And there's lots of other chemical reactions, systems within the body that are really influenced by your bacteria. So, whether you're putting on visceral fat, for instance, the abdominal fat type thing, or how your sugar metabolism is going and those spikes in your sugar and so on, they all have an influence on causing cancer. The abdominal fat can release hormone therapy that can provoke the cells and so on. So overall, this, taking care of the bacteria is really important. Okay, so then if you can do those things, you can maximize your diet. How is it then the diet helps to heal, helps you to recover from the cancer? Well, the one idea is that if you have a really good diet, like the colored fruits and vegetables, the berries, the colors of the rainbow, they often have what they call an antioxidant. Essentially, it's a chemical that mops up the damaging and stimulating chemicals. So it's like it's mopping up all the bad stuff. It's kind of sucking up the bad stuff and stopping the inflammation and irritation of the cell. So antioxidants are a healthy way that it really makes kind of difference there. We can turn off the signals for cell growth. Again, I was talking about these spikes of, having the big spike of sugar and having the insulin try to get that back into the cells, and then bottoming out and being hungry, and then overeating, and get this kind of roller coaster up and down of insulin and the molecules that cause the growth. So we're trying to stop that. So we're changing the conditions, making it as healthy a soup as possible, allowing the immune system to function essentially at its best through that. So I know it's the kind of the flip side of the negative, but this is why we're doing this. Ultimately, we have a capacity within the body. We want to be able to empower it. Okay, big pictures. I always want people to get some advice from their physicians. So oftentimes the cancer centers have that registered dietitian. You kind of send an email or make a phone call or show up at their door, and they can talk to you about what's working within your diet, make some specific modifications, individualized for you. So really, I think it's a good idea for everybody. In the meantime, I'm talking general principles, and I especially endorse the dietitian if you're going through treatments in which you're losing weight, especially maybe on chemotherapy or treatments, if the radiation or the chemo is affecting your mouth or your gastrointestinal tract, you're not able to eat, there's lots of little modifications that can kind of get you through the treatment that ultimately can get you back to what I'm talking about, which is the kind of long-term taking care of yourself in a diet. So superfoods versus dietary patterns. Yes, I endorse blueberries if you like blueberries, but I wouldn't say, you know, you're going to overdose on blueberries because you've read something on the internet that says blueberries kill breast cancer, for instance. It's better that you use diversity within your diet and not just focus on one thing, because they're kind of interacting with each other, and there's no proof that one supplement or one particular food is the cure-all. Now, it might for a particular person have made a big difference, but generally speaking, we can't generalize to say one food or one molecule and so on. And frankly, it doesn't kind of work that way within nature, is that the food is delivered in what they call a food matrix. It has lots of different micronutrients. It's being released into your body. It's metabolized within your body, all within the context of lots of different chemicals from that, even one food helping you. So the absorption, the metabolizing, it's not the same as just, you know, putting some cells in the test tube and thinking the cells aren't growing, therefore it's a good molecule. We really want the diversity, the interactions, and we're just learning about that right now. So no one food is the kind of home run. No one diet is the home run. You have to use your mindfulness around this. Okay, so diversity, 30 different plant-based foods per week is part of the diverse diet. Colors of the rainbow, right? Diversity, not one superfood. Okay, this is the overview slide that kind of sets this out. So if you bring this one home, and I'm sure you'll be able to watch the video later, this is what I'd recommend. Eat food. What does that mean? Not chemicals, like not the thing that needs labels and 35 ingredients on the ingredients list. So it's a whole food, mostly plants is really the healthiest thing in terms of the antioxidants and so on. Obviously not too much as well. So that's the biggest principle. Yes, you can integrate the meat in the way that's best for you, but I'm saying mostly plants, 90% plants. Well, one of the things we said is at a mealtime, 2/5 of the veggies mostly and some fruit, 1/5 of the complex carbohydrate, and a palmful of the kind of high density protein meal. So that's the kind of the ratios of all those. So 50% plus are the veggies, green veggies in lots of colors. And then they have the complex carbohydrates, so they can slowly release the glucose and the sugars into your bloodstream so that you don't get those spikes in your sugar levels. Yes, we need protein. You're going to get that through non-meat sources. You need healthy fats as well. And again, you're going to modify this in a way that feels good for your body. So less meat, and I would say no meat or no red meat for certain. Fiber, we are fiber deficient. I really think this is a very important point. You need to get that kind of 30 grams, maybe even 40 grams, or sorry, 25, 30 grams of fiber per day. The healthy fluids are a great option for you. And then, as I say, it's the diversity, multiple foods, nutrient dense at each meal, so that the micronutrients can work together and not be too restrictive on that side. So you're getting the vitamins, you're getting the minerals, you're getting what you need. Yes, we probably need to supplement, especially within Canada, the vitamin D. Talk to your physician, get your vitamin D levels measured, for instance, B12 if you're more on the vegan side. And then ultimately, I want you to be able to do this for a long, long time and for you to be happy and enjoy the eating experience, right? And so I want you to work towards that healthy diet. Makes you feel good, gives you know, you're strong, your gut feels good, you're thinking clearly, and you want to be able to continue that forever or for as long as possible. And so therefore, you know, you use those principles to test this in your life. Okay, I say the big 5 food groups, the first 2, veggies and fruits. Next one, intact grains, because all the micronutrients are there. If you start to refine and kind of pull out some of the grain product, the white, white rice, et cetera, not as healthy as if you keep the whole grain there. People complain, eating vegetarian is so expensive. You're right, it is expensive. However, beans, I am a strong proponent of beans because they have protein, because they've got healthy fats, because they've got fiber, they've got some ingrained carbohydrates that are complex. It's good for your microbiome. I think this is it. And the takeaway is it's super cheap, right? This is about one of the cheapest, fantastic foods that we can buy. And then interesting, the big five, my wife is the mushroomaholic. So mushrooms also are now being able to prove it kind of scientifically how they affect the pathways of how cancer cells actually grow. And so we can potentially have a nutraceutical where we can eat something that can have an influence on growth directly. So there's a picture from my wife going to the market and getting some mushrooms from the mushroom man, all super healthy stuff. They have physical and mental benefits. There's these molecules within the fungi that are really, really healthy for us. So, and what does it do? It helps a whole bunch of things. So again, the science is stronger and stronger. You can integrate some mushrooms into your diet in a way that's right for you, improve all these things that I've been talking about. Okay, this is really very concerning, the ultra-processed foods. This is Chris Van Tulken. He's a scientist, physician from the UK that's done some incredible research into ultra-processed foods and so on. I recommend the book. It's really quite shocking, to tell you the truth. It also can explain why there's been an increase in obesity within our society, also probably increase in cancer within our society. So again, he's there in front of all those pieces of bread. That's all probably all ultra-processed bread there. Okay, so what's the issue? So the food industry, maybe out of good intentions initially, wanted to increase production. And so they were trying to gain cheaper ingredients by processing the whole foods and extracting different micronutrients or different food components. So, taking corn and creating corn oils, like drawing out all the micronutrient into like single elements. Well, nature doesn't work that way, and it's just not healthy for us. And then they kind of reconstitute, putting micronutrients from different types in order to create these addictive foods, essentially, and adding preservatives so they can distribute the foods, et cetera, et cetera. And yes, it's cheaper, but I would call them food-like substances. So, and what's the issue? The food is then designed to maximize profit and for you to eat maximally. And so they've got the right combination. Those scientists have got the right combination of sugar, salt, and fat that make the food really, addictive, soft, easy to get in, energy dense. And so it gets into the system so fast that we're just so prone to overeating, as opposed to imagine eating that, 2 fists of veggies first, and it hits your guts and stretches your gut and sends the signal to your brain, I'm eating some good stuff here. I don't have to feel so hungry, right? So that's the other end of the spectrum. So, and then the marketing around it, again, they're tapping into all the kind of emotional centers to try to have you, eat the lousy foods. And then this has been an iterative cycle of food design to testing to focus groups to marketing to market share, and they just keep on going over the decades to maximize these foods that are not good for us. Okay, so this is a classification from a Brazilian researcher who noticed that the foods had changed in the 1980s to the 1990s in Brazil, and they were the same types of foods, but they became ultra processed, and then there was an obesity epidemic in Brazil starting in the 90s. And they felt like it was this ultra processed foods produced by the big food companies that were actually at the root of it. And so they started testing which people were getting, which diseases. And so the first 3 categories of processing are actually kind of the healthy side of things. Obviously, we like class 1, where we're kind of eating the kind of fresh, real, unprocessed foods. But just, number 2, adding the oil, sugars, butter, salt, that's probably not at all an issue for us, as long as they're not too high in the percentage wise. And even some processing, it still keeps the foods within the healthy boundary. So you typically 2 to 3 ingredients, right? The fourth category is a whole different set of fish, different kettle of fish. So that's the ultra processed foods, in which they're pulling together these micronutrients, high in sugars and salts, and vegetable oils and food additives. This is the stuff that I'm asking you to avoid. Super important. So what's an ultra processed food? So generally speaking, they're extracting from other foods, uses chemicals that you don't recognize, the emulsifiers and preservatives. I'll talk about that in a moment. You wouldn't have those chemicals in your kitchen pantry. You can't make that kind of combination of garbagey food yourself. You know, it's just not what you have a capacity to do. And unfortunately, it's a very high percentage of the supermarket foods that you're going to look at walking down those aisles that actually ultra processed, including all the bread, all the breakfast cereals, most of the yogurts, energy bars, anything that has a plastically wrap, you know, the frozen dinners, those type of thing. Almost all of that stuff is not good for you. I'm sorry to say, guys, but I want to be like super blunt with this. So there's an opportunity to slowly transition yourself away from this into the diet that is actually helpful. So yeah, so there's Mario Katz here talking about the various additives. Emulsifiers. What's an emulsifier? It's like your laundry detergent, and the molecule is set up to pull dirt off one side and water off the other. So it's good for good to clean your clothes. But that same thing is actually happening in your gut, right? So you're kind of ripping off part of the inner lining of your gut. And you're setting yourself up for leaky gut syndrome. So the colors, the firming agents, this stuff is not good for you. So what I'm going to suggest is that you read the label. So not the top half of this diagram, because those are the kind of the macronutrients, fat, protein, sugars, fiber. You know, that's kind of helpful, but it doesn't tell the kind of truth of the story. The truth of the story is actually in the ingredients. And if you're reading this ADA, azodicarbonide, I can't even say it, it's that bad. Like, what's that? How does that influence your gut microbiome? How does that influence the lining of gut? How does that happen? How does that feel to your brain, get that molecule up into your brain? So again, stay away from those type of things. So Canada 2022 published the list of things that are ultra processed and not good for us. Sorry guys, yes, you can have this in, you know, balance maybe once a month as a treat type thing. But you know, a lot of the stuff, especially the processed meats, sausages, deli meats, oh, that's a carcinogen by proof. Here's the products, the ice cream product. At least they admit to it. Bioengineered food ingredients. I don't know if you can see my cursor there, but that's the last thing on the long list of chemicals they've added to that just to make it taste better, last longer. 60 to 70% or 50 to 60% of our calories in Canada, USA are provided through ultra processed foods. That's way too high. Even higher in kids, thinking about the breakfast cereals, for instance. And in our kids, it's associated with all these kind of disorders, right? So we need to kind of set the example, change our diet for our young ones as well. And so what's the issue for you as an adult now? So we know the ultra processed foods are associated with poor mental health. Our brains don't function as well. We're not happy. Neurodegenerative disease, Alzheimer's, also associated with this. Increased risk of cancer. Remember what I said, if it increases your risk of cancer, then avoid it afterwards. You know, changes the metabolism, puts us at risk of diabetes, obesity, many other medical conditions. I want you to be healthy, not just from cancer perspective, but all those perspectives. We need to avoid those food-like substances. I'm gonna share with you a study. This is a super important study. They basically took, these were not cancer survivors, these are adults with some obesity, adults, and kind of held them in a detention center for 28 days so they could measure them very, very carefully. And they were randomized between two groups. The first group was the healthy diet. They got the healthy diet for 2 weeks, and then the ultra processed food diet for 2 weeks. And the other group was the reverse around. So they got ultra processed for 2 weeks, then the healthy diet for 2 weeks. And the unhealthy diet had 80% of the calories from ultra processed foods, and the healthy diet had 80% of the calories from the whole foods. And so they tried to match the diets exactly in terms of calorie density, macronutrients, fiber. So for instance, if they had a blueberry muffin on the healthy side, it would be made from all the kind of healthy substances, whereas the ultra processed blueberry muffin would have all these extra chemicals involved, right? So they're really trying to make the diets available, and these participants could eat whatever they wanted during that time. So, and they are allowed to eat whatever they want, however much they wanted. And both groups reported on the day-to-day that they felt full, same degree of satiety. They enjoyed their food to the same degree throughout the 4 weeks, regardless of which diet they're on. The scary part was the ultra-processed group ate 500 calories more per day. They didn't know it. They were eating more calories. And so the ultra-processed group had actually gained 2 pounds over 2 weeks, and the healthy group had actually lost 2 pounds over 2 weeks, and yet they were feeling the same. So why is it that people were gaining weight eating this ultra-processed food-like substances? Maybe it's the caloric density. You don't feel full enough. You're eating before your brain actually knows that you're full. I'm of the belief that actually is influencing our gut microbiome, and also the chemicals that are interfering with the pathways that tell us when we're full. So that is an ongoing story there. So big picture, we're avoiding the junky stuff, especially the sugary drinks. It's an easy swap to start out with on that side. Huge amount of press and interest and science around the microbiome. And here are just a few kind of good books. And then, this is in the news and in the scientific journals to big degree. So the microbiome. So what is it, and what defines a healthy microbiome? So we have 100 trillion organisms, mostly bacteria, within our gastrointestinal tract. They're mostly living in the colon, like more than 1,000 different types of bacteria. And you can think of it like a forest. You want lots of different type of trees for the soil to be healthy and for the trees to be healthy, right? So diversity is better. And it's those bacteria that are actually doing the digestion of the foods. And you can actually, by eating the same healthy foods, those bacteria that kind of feed off those food get stronger, and those trees or those bacteria grow more. What critical functions, right? So they're breaking down the food for us. I talked about immune function, right? It allows, that's the training ground for the immune function. It's actually producing chemicals that go to our brain, right? So when you eat a good meal, your actually mood can be elevated and your brain can think more clearly. It influences metabolism, how we convert fat, the endocrine system, which is the hormone system, even influences our skin, for instance. So it's this kind of back and forth between the brain talking to the bacteria in their gut, bacteria in the gut releasing the neurotransmitters as it goes back to the brain. It goes back and forth. So even your mood influences how your gut actually functions. It's incredible. It's like, it's one complex, amazing system. And so we want to feed our friends. That's the takeaway. So how is it you can influence those bacteria? And I'm putting a picture of the PEP program, the Cancer PEP program here, because interestingly, every aspect of the PEP program also influences the microbiome. So it's not just diet. When you eat, like there's a circadian rhythm, your bacteria know when it's midnight or 3 a.m. They actually have an influence there. Exercising, releasing those molecules as your exercises influences the bacteria, which is incredible. Your stress levels, this inflammation, these issues, it's going top down and bottom up all at the same time. Our sleep habits have an influence on our bacteria. So it's an incredible system that goes back and forth, and it's holographic. Everything influences everything, and that's why me just talking about diet doesn't do it justice. This is interesting. So they're giving an idea that if you're eating meat, you develop certain bacteria in your gut that allow you to digest that meat. And the problem, though, is that eating too much meat, and I'm not going to be kind of anti-meat here. I'm just going to say that eating too much meat puts in molecules like TMAO that allows more inflammation within the body, and that puts us at risk of these various ailments. And so, for instance, having the the vegan eat in a particular like meat challenge, hardly any of this TMAO increase when the vegan ate the meat because they didn't have the bacteria to kind of break it down, whereas the omnivore could actually have a spike there. So by staying on board, having a healthy diet over months, you're actually changing what you can actually absorb and have an influence on your diet. Whereas the healthier diet, if you can get those, the complex fibers and resistant starch and grow those bacteria that can break those down, that releases the short chain fatty acids, which is a very good molecule. It's coming out of your kind of colon area, getting into your bloodstream, and you can see all the kind of benefits on the right-hand side, right? So anti-lipogenic means you're growing less fat, for instance. Improved insulin sensitivity means that insulin's able to do the job without having to pump out all those molecules that prime cancer growth. Increased energy, anti-cancer, anti-inflammatory. It's better for your intestinal tract. So, right, you set up the conditions. It's not necessarily that, yeah, you're setting up the conditions. I'll go there. There are different organizations now looking at food diversity and health and so on. I wanted to talk about what are prebiotics versus probiotics. So the prebiotics are almost like the food that the bacteria can eat. So the long chain carbohydrate-like molecules. So they're long chains that we don't have the capacity, the human genome doesn't have the capacity to break down, but our bacteria love it. They kind of feed off of that. So we want to give them the stuff that makes them feel good so they can do the job of the other stuff for us. Whereas probiotics are actually, we're ingesting bacteria, having the bacteria get into our gastrointestinal tract, and that's also helpful. And it's not necessarily just those bacteria that are helpful. It's almost like if you get some healthy bacteria in there, it almost allows the other healthy bacteria to grow more easily. Like you're growing the forest at that point and not just individual trees. So examples up top of prebiotics, right? You're thinking of those vegetables, tomatoes, apples, artichoke, et cetera, et cetera. And then the probiotics, again, it's actually recommended as long as you're not on chemotherapy and as long as you're not kind of overdosing on any particular probiotic or probiotic product, then it's actually healthy. You don't want to keep feeding exactly the same bacteria to your gut all the time. You want to kind of keep mixing it up, keeping it diverse. Okay, I wanted to show that picture because again, you're seeing the beans and lentils and grains up top left-hand corner, right? And then fruits and veggies and colored foods, all great for your gut. And then those are the probiotics, the tempeh, the tofu, the coleslaw, etc. Okay, so what's happening there? If you eat the sugary stuff, your small intestine's able to pull that simple sugar into your bloodstream, immediately cause that spike, and it doesn't get into the colon, which is where the vast majority of your healthy bugs live. If you eat the healthy stuff, which is the kind of complex, high fiber, long chain carbohydrate like molecules, you're getting that into the gut, and that's where you're releasing the short chain fatty acids that's really healthy for you. Okay, wonderful picture from Justin Sonnenberg from Stanford. On the top left-hand corner is the bacteria in your gut, so very complex forest. In the bottom right-hand corner is the lining, the actual cells of the intestine, and in between the two is a mucus layer. This is a very, very healthy mucus layer that kind of protects the humans from having these bad chemicals like immediately get into those cells. So there's the healthy mucous membrane that you want in your gut. And then whether you're feeding the rat salad or feeding them Coke and candies, that really can degenerate that mucous membrane, can lead to what they call leaky gut syndrome. And so you can see the fiber rich, you're feeding the bacteria, you got a nice thick mucous membrane, or fiber deficient, the mucous membrane starts to get eaten away. The bacteria themselves are eating away at their own mucous membrane, and that can really cause havoc in terms of inflammation and you feeling bloated and feeling awful after a meal, for instance. I want to emphasize that probably I should have had a stronger push in terms of fiber per day. So it is 30 to 40 grams per day of fiber. It's so important for your bacteria, so important for your health. And we're really averaging 10 to 15, and it's something that you can do. And you don't want to kind of binge on fiber right away. This is one of those that, again, you have to slowly ramp up over time, because if you binge immediately on fiber, your bacteria aren't kind of ready for it. So again, you're kind of building that capacity, kind of like training for a marathon, for instance. And lots of kind of interesting studies. They looked at fermented foods versus fiber-rich foods in the Fee-Fi-Fo-Fum study. They actually showed that adding some fermented food actually decreases inflammation within your body. The fiber is important, but that was a really interesting study. I'm not going to take you through the exact thing. So in summary, this is key. Microbiome, love your bugs, I think is the way to go at it. They're doing a lot for us. If you eat those processed, ultra-processed food, refined foods, you're actually kind of starving them out. It changes the whole setup there. So fiber, whole foods, probiotics, which is actually the good bacteria, and diversity. I want you to remember one key point here: 30 different types of plant-based foods per week. Right? So count them up as you go through your week. The more diversity that you're eating, the more diversity within your gut, the bacteria, and that's very, very healthy for you. Okay, myth: sugar in fruit is not good for you. Well, maybe if you drink it as a fruit juice, yes, that might not be good for you. And as I said before, if you're getting those kind of spikes in sugar, the refined sugar, then that can increase insulin, which primes cell growth, et cetera, et cetera. So the sugary stuff you want with the fiber, so you're eating it through the whole food, like the apple or the whole orange. It also helps to eat your fruit with other foods. So for instance, having some protein or some fat, fiber along with your fruit allows the slower absorption of that sugar into your bloodstream, which is what you want to do. You want that kind of slow burning fuel. It's cancer in a can, right? To drink this sugary, awful stuff. Eat little or no meat. Yes, I'm still there. Yes, you may argue you feel better if you eat a little bit of meat. Good for you. I eat fish now. I used to be 99% vegan. Now I'm about 95% vegan. So I eat sardines once per week. And so just stay away from the red meat. It has no fiber. There's too much saturated fat. There's an association between more red meat and more worse outcomes. And especially if you're, barbecuing or frying at too high a level, that kind of seared meat has the kind of chemicals, harmful chemicals like the hydrocarbons that are not healthy for us. There's a distribution of meat intake versus risk of colon cancer. New Zealand, which eats a lot of lamb and sheep and so on, USA, Canada, the lower the meat level, the lower risk of colon cancer. But you're a vegetarian. Where do you get your protein? Like, you're not getting enough protein unless you eat meat. Wrong. How about this? You're seeing a beautiful horse on the side. They're eating grass and they're full of muscle. It's very rare, very, very, very rare for someone to say, oh, my protein intake has been too low. I'm suffering from protein deficiency. It just doesn't happen. It's really, really hard to do. If you're in the midst of chemotherapy, you're right. You do want to make sure you get enough protein intake and do what you have to do to get there. So that's a separate scenario. So the issue is the vegetables have the same building blocks called amino acids as the meat, the muscle of the animals. That's how the animals got the muscles in the first place. The issue is that you need to eat more than one type of food in a meal. You would either have, like, beans and rice have the right combination of the amino acids so that they have enough essential amino acids for your body to create the full protein. So that's the idea, is you don't binge just on beans, you just don't binge on rice, you actually put the two together to create the essential amino acids that can build your body. And then there's lots of other healthy plant-based foods, especially beans and seeds and legumes, excellent protein content, super healthy for you as well. So the balanced diet is actually gives you the protein that you need. If you do the calculation based on weight, you might say a person needs 64 grams of protein per day. You could do the calculation. The truth is it's probably closer to 40 grams. And we're almost all getting 64 grams anywhere in a kind of standard diet. So 40 grams is what you need. If you do the calculation, 70% of our calories, 2,000 calorie diet per day gives you 85 grams of protein. Look, don't worry about it. It's there. Just have that mix. Look for the foods that are higher in protein. You'll be fine. Okay, and I can argue very clearly, vegetarians versus meat eaters, who's healthier? Vegetarians on generally have more energy, they have a healthier weight, they have a stronger immunity, lower risk of all types of disease, including cancer, and on average, they're living longer. So that's why I'm thinking, generally speaking, vegetarians are healthier. Do what you love though. Lots of sources for healthy proteins, the grains and nuts and beans, right? I'm listing lots of different stuff that you can slowly integrate into your diet. Test the different recipes. What do you like? What makes you feel good? And so you keep testing, you test out 3 different dishes and you like one of them, and then you integrate that dish into your diet in the weeks and months to come. Healthy whole grains. Think of whole foods, whole grains, keeping all those micronutrients. I just like this saying, no sweet, no wheat, no dairy, and no refined foods. Now, yes, I'm cutting back on dairy. I don't exclude dairy completely. I'm very much don't try to eat eggs. I think it's not as healthy for you, but if you're going to do that, maybe 1 a week or 2 a week. So you can have them in small amounts. Okay, supplements. Generally speaking, there's only a couple that I'm thinking about. Almost all of us need vitamin D. Get your doctor to order a blood level. Maybe you need a multivitamin if you're older. Again, talk to your physician around whether that's necessary. B12, 2.4 micrograms if you're like strict vegan there. And you can get, just don't feel like you have to supplement just because you're hearing this stuff on the internet. I think you want to just generally get the advice and stick to the healthy diet. That's all you really need. Omega-3, I'm going to talk about that in a moment. Actually, there's algae that produce omega-3. That's what the fish eat for their omega-3s. And so you can also get your omega-3 as a vegetarian. Healthy fluids, you're staying hydrated. Tea, I think that's super healthy. Be careful of the stuff maybe from China that there might be some additive heavy metals, et cetera, et cetera. Chaga mushroom, super healthy. Saffron, expensive but super healthy. Warm lemon water first thing in the morning. Sorry, you have to reduce your alcohol. Is a drink a week is probably in that range or less. You can use the plant-based milks as well. Coffee, yes, actually coffee is good for you. The issue is it could be a stimulant, has a half-life of about 6 to 8 hours, so you want to drink your coffee earlier in the day. I want you guys to enjoy yourselves as well, right? Fat is bad for you. That's a myth as well. There's our healthy fats that we need. Yes, the trans fats, the saturated fats are not good for us, but those fats also allow the brain cells to heal themselves and regenerate and so on. So there's a number of really kind of healthy fats. The issue is not too much, right? They're kind of high in calories, and so you're sprinkling on the olive oil in a salad or a small portion of peanut butter with on an apple, for instance. So you're not getting too many calories through these kind of healthy fats. Healthy oil, so you have the olive oil, cold pressed. It's a first iteration, less than a year old of it. Grape seeds for salads. There's avocado I like, especially for cooking at high temperatures. So healthy oils, multiple sources, not just one, right? So you're getting it through your nuts as well. The essential fatty acids is also good for your brain. It reduces inflammation, and you can get that. I'm listing it here. I use hemp hearts as well, but flax. There's your fiber again. The walnuts, green vegetables. Green veggies is actually, I think, I would call it a superfood or a very important food. And so those create the same molecules that you're going to get from the fish. The problem is the fish that can kind of go rancid. So I do believe I'm now eating like 1 can of sardines per week. I think is a good option in terms of protein and omega-3s. not the big fish like tuna, because they got too many metals in it. So the cold deep fish, I think, is the way to go at the omega-3s and the fish itself. I just flashed it up to say you can actually influence your mood. Again, specific. I think dark chocolate is a good option. It's not too high in sugar, for instance. Okay. Ultimately, you have to make a decision around how you feel afterwards. How do you feel an hour or two later? How's your energy going? Are you crashing 3-4 hours later? Some people, their blood sugar spike. For instance, I've stopped eating bananas because I feel bad an hour and a half to 2 hours later. Other people, bananas fine. People use continuous blood sugar monitors to see and to kind of watch. You can put this little device into your arm and then have the app and watch what happens with different foods. And there's also this this idea that now you can send off a poop sample and they can actually look at the bacteria in your gut and predict what foods you're going to be able to digest more easily and what not. And so fascinating science that's coming your way. Brain food, right? Again, we can influence how we feel. Anti-inflammatory spices. Again, I would put this as a kind of a key teaching point. The spices actually have an influence in terms of kind of mopping up those chemicals. So turmeric, cardamom, look, smoothies, there seems to be you can actually put a little bit of into a smoothie, for instance, or vegetable or soups, right? So this is an add-on that's easy, that can really make a difference in terms of how you feel and so on. So turmeric, ginger, I put into the smoothie as well. So again, stir fry. These are easy add-ons. I really recommend that you start to experiment with that. Keep it fresh. The garlic has to sit for 10 minutes before it can cook, for instance, or just keep it fresh and eat it right off of that cooked vegetable, for instance. Healthy swaps is part of the PEP program as well. So you're looking for these ideas like, you want to have a snack, but what snack do you want? You can, have a glass of water, cheers, in terms of your, instead of some pop or some soda, the fruit instead of a cookie, the bean salad. I tell you, it's healthy. Check it out. Eat a bean salad. See how you feel an hour or two later, or 3 hours later, right? So you have vegetables, popcorn, apple. You're looking for those healthy ways that becomes the norm for you. You don't have that stuff sitting around your house. Dairy, I'd say limit it. I don't want you to have a lot of dairy, and you can get your calcium through, which is essentially the important one, through lots of different plant milks, lots of different plant-based proteins. Shopping. Okay, so here's another kind of critical one. I know I'm hitting you with a lot of information, but this is the planning part is actually essential in terms of trying to make this work for you. You need to plan ahead. You need to try to test this out. Get those different dishes, these different opportunities. Try it, and then you start to plan and figure out what you're going to get over time. Don't shop when you're hungry or tired. I know that I'm certainly vulnerable to bringing home the cookie type substance if I'm shopping. So you just don't want that in your house, or you hide it once it's in your house. Read the labels. Just don't buy the unhealthy stuff. It's really hard to eat that stuff at 10:30 at night if it's not in your house. Read those labels. Here's the label for my oatmeal, right? So rolled oats, buckwheat, chia seeds, amaranth, hemp seeds. There's a flour there, and rolled quinoa. That sounds pretty good to me, and I feel pretty good after eating that one. Then be smart about the preparation. If you have the healthy stuff that's ready to eat and it's kind of up front in your fridge, it's so much easier when you're hungry to kind of open up the fridge door and it's right there, and you're able to have that healthy snack if that's what you want. You cook in larger servings. I mean, my wife is a fantastic chef. I probably get 3 days, rice plus had a lentil curry for lunch today. Lots of options. Frozen foods, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Again, this is the stuff type of stuff we teach you on the program. They maintains the nutrients if it's a kind of a fresh frozen. It's then easy to kind of warm up. Add that to the rest of your dinner. It's a really great option. So especially berries and the veggies, especially cruciferous veggies, are very healthy for you in terms of frozen side of it. There's more products there. You can make a frozen soup. Again, you're being efficient and smart about this and not having the garbagey stuff around. You can tell this is one of my pictures because it's not very well framed, but this is my breakfast, for instance. So It's oatmeal with lots of different subproducts. Sometimes that's a smoothie, but I'm adding, there's hemp hearts, there's the Brazil nuts, there's the raisins, there's the blueberries, there's the pumpkin seeds. Here's some other ideas around breakfast, right? So breakfast is something you can usually plan, easier to do. Smoothies, right? Depending on your taste preference, you can change your smoothies to the smoothie that you like the taste of by varying the ingredients, right? And then you can be putting in all these wonderful healthy things. I like to put kale into my smoothie, right? So I'm getting my fiber to my gut through the kale first thing in the morning. Healthy lunch. Soup is also a fantastic option of being able to add the various components, the veggies that you like to taste and so on, and you add it together. Salad, same idea. Sprinkle on some healthy fats. The veggies, the hummus. Again, you can tell it's my picture. There's very similar to what I had today. So chickpea curry with the salad. I have some guacamole. I have some chips that I'm eating there, some rice, whole grain rice. That makes me happy and gives me the energy to keep going. So lots of options on that side. Lots of healthy suppers. There's a lot of good stuff out there. Tap into the internet, use the whole grains, enjoy the process itself. Healthy suppers. I think I'm going to finish with time-restricted eating. I think this is the last thing. So it's not what you eat, but when you eat. I like the time-restricted eating because essentially when we're eating, we have all this kind of glucose, the sugar that's in our system. We're loading up the fat cells. When we stop eating, then you kind of burn that sugar off in your blood, you burn the sugar off in your liver, and you're left with trying to break down the ketones, which is an excellent source of energy as well. And those ketones are actually key to anti-inflammatory processes. They're actually going to mop up the stuff. So the ketones are really important. It improves the cell function. It makes the cells more resistant to stress, allows the organs to regenerate. It starts to eat up the weak cells. There's some ideas around time-restricted eating around chemotherapy. We decrease inflammation, allows our gut to heal, for instance, when we're not eating continuously. And we want to eat in the same cycle because our bacteria know around this. So we eat during the day, we don't eat during night. And just by doing that by itself, the blood sugars and insulin levels are better controlled. The fat production is lower. We have better blood pressure. Just that concept by itself. How do we do that? Try not to get any calories in you for the first hour. Try not to eat anything 2 to 3 hours before you go to sleep. And yes, you can have a little bit of tea, but not tea and coffee, but really trying to limit any calories in the non-eating times. You can train yourself over a number of months. So for instance, you slowly get better and better at metabolizing the ketones within your body. I'm just giving you an example that you're slowly increasing the number of hours that you're not eating at night. I'd say get yourself to 14 hours, if that feels good for you, meaning not eating during a 10-hour window and not eating for 14 hours, I think is probably a pretty good goal there. Yes, as you train yourself in those hungry periods, you are going to have a few little side effects there. That's the normal. But interestingly, your body adapts to that. And so you can get better and stronger and not experience those symptoms. You actually metabolize more easily and you feel better during those times. So it's normal that you have to kind of go through the training period and feel a little bit worse. This is why we do this. When you're in that phase, the anti-inflammatory phase allows your heart and kidneys and brain to kind of heal itself. Immune function gets boosted. Our blood sugar levels get leveled out better. We can lose some weight, even gain muscle at the same time. Helps prevent cancer. When you hear that, then you say, that's the thing I want to do. So lots of different benefits to allowing yourself to get into that kind of hungry phase, within that 24-hour cycle. I'm a proponent of vegan diet. I think adding a little bit of meat on top is a really good healthy option. But essentially, you're getting that nutrient-dense foods, whole grains, vegetables. Probably need to add some vitamin B12. Definitely add vitamin D. Lots of great options. Lots of great options these days. Soy, yes. Again, I don't want a binging. I don't want an exclusion. But the plant sources of the estrogen are different than the estrogen that we have in our body. So the phytoestrogens actually are protective against breast cancer. And there's lots of different variations. You probably want this to go on the organic side of things. Organic necessary, yeah, I would prefer it. Less pesticides there, probably better farming practices. Support the local folks as you do this. Again, I said that already. It's probably down to a drink a week. 0 is probably the best amount of alcohol. But again, enjoy your life perspective. Okay, how about these fad diets? Low carb, high carb, fad X, fad Z. You want something that you're going to be able to maintain and makes you feel strong in the long term, right? And so we use those healthy swaps. We don't buy the unhealthy ultra processed junk, and you're going to be there. You don't need to go on to counting calories or restricting yourself. You're going to choose the foods that make you feel great. You're going to eat those veggies and whole foods first. Allow your hunger center then to guide you to feel satiated. So really, I'm staying away from all this stuff. I want the pattern to be healthy and slowly transition to the foods you enjoy. Ketogenic diet, the issue for me is it's very high fat, high protein. You're probably not getting enough fiber. You're probably not getting enough of the healthy carbs, all those micronutrients that are really healthy for you. So I'm not at all a fan of this very restrictive diet. So yeah, again, you can experiment, but I wouldn't say this is the starting point for you. Tips to making this work: eat your veggies first. Don't have the unhealthy stuff there. Look for the healthy swaps. You can find the cheaper foods in the beans and lentils and so on. So here's one resource. You'll have these slides. You'll have this video for us through Inspire Health, fantastic organization out of BC. Lots of great recipes there, but there's a lot of great recipes online now. If you're in the midst of chemo, talk to an expert, especially if you're struggling, losing weight, for instance. You need enough calories to actually feed those cells and keep your immune system functioning. And you can measure that by your weight. If you're maintaining weight, then you're okay. Ultimately, it's like the green light scenario. Whatever you need to do to kind of keep the calories going. Sometimes eating smaller, more frequent foods or just changing to the foods that you can actually tolerate may be the way to go at it. You don't want to be taking supplements with antioxidants. The antioxidants can prevent the chemotherapy or the radiation, for instance, from doing its job as potential side effect. And just be kind to yourself. You want to kind of get through your treatment so that you can go on to your healthy diet that you're going to maintain for months and years and hopefully decades going forward, because that's really the vast majority of the time is where the diet's going to have the kind of home run effect. So recovery and survivorship, that's when everything I've talked about, it kind of takes into place. I just want to recognize, and hopefully we'll be able to partner with CCSN around this PEP program, 6-month daily science-based program, very comprehensive, 5 minutes. And on the dietary side is we actually have dietary themes. So everything I've talked about, we actually expand different types of food and macronutrients and body systems and so on. We have a weekly cooking video. We teach you the actual preparation and how to put together a wonderful cheap meals. And we can help you slowly transform your diet over about 6 months. And this is interaction between your diet and everything else you can do to empower yourself. Anti-inflammatory diet. The goal is we're not talking about weight at all. We talk about you feeling stronger and happier. Food provides us the energy for what's most important, gives you the energy to do these things. You can feel more satisfied, happier, guts feeling better, and we want the happier, healthier you in the long term that you can do in the long term. So I think that essentially concludes the presentation. Thank you so much for your attention. I know that was very fast and there's a lot of information there, but there's a lot of different ways that can really make a difference in your health and happiness. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Rob. It was a fantastic talk. We do have 1 or 2 questions to wrap this up. One question actually was about about certain processed foods, or for people who really need a whole bunch of protein. You mentioned a whole bunch before with nuts as well, but there is one in any article that you read about processed food. There is something about how sometimes food is fortified, they like to say, rather than processed, and gives for people who need more protein and whatnot, they can take that. But what are your thoughts on the claim that just because it's hyper processed doesn't mean it's necessarily bad for you, but if it's fortified to supplement in a sense?
Yeah, it's a great question around fortified versus ultra processed. I'd say look at the ingredient list, right? Are they adding a whole bunch of extra chemicals in order to get the fortified nutrients? And again, because the food kind of travels, the healthy food travels in groups, the whole food is kind of the better option. It's better to probably choose a food that is high in the macronutrient that you need, as opposed to looking for some type of product that is kind of try to give you something extra. However, if you're losing weight, you do what you need to do. If you're going through treatment, you do what you need to do to kind of get those calories through and the macronutrients in. And if it's a fortified food that does the trick for you, hats off to you. You go for it.
Excellent. Another one. What is there? Is there an affordable way to eat organic? Because oftentimes stuff that is labeled organic is often mocked up, and so is there an affordable way to eat
Yeah.
organic?
Yeah, I'm not an expert on this one. I think if we all kind of support and eat organic and look for the foods that are healthy, like I think the lentils and beans can be grown and distributed organically. I think that would be the secret in terms of the cheaper diet. And so maybe if you're saving some money on that side, then you can allow yourself to buy the more expensive organic produce. Might be the option.
Hmm. And final question from the crowd. What are your thoughts on pre or probiotic supplements?
Yeah, so the one thing I worry about is if you're eating the same probiotic supplement, it has this kind of same group of bacteria in it, and if you're not giving yourself the same diversity. So I'd say the alternative then is to use a different probiotic supplement, like change them up every few weeks or month, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not exactly the same probiotic, which is the bacteria. But also, I just think if you can eat it through a whole food, it's probably healthier for you otherwise. But again, what works for you, what makes you feel better, I think is more important than um, having to follow the strict rules. So if it feels good for you and you're getting enough diversity otherwise, then I think that's actually a good option.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Rob, once again for a fantastic, fantastic talk. Lots of information to bring in as well, and I'm glad to have you on. And we're very glad to collaborate a little bit more
Cheers.
as well as thank you for agreeing to be part of our new CCSN podcast as well. So hopefully we can chat a little bit later on about that, and then we can hopefully you'll be able to come on as well. But if you are, we'll be definitely seeing you in the new year, hopefully as well.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot, Trevor. And thank you everybody for attending the talk here. Take care.
Excellent. Now, this is one in a series of webinars that we're presenting throughout the year. So this is our first one of 2025. Our next one should be happening in a couple of weeks. It's already on our website. So if you'd like to stay into loop about our webinars, visit our website or check your email for our e-blasts. If you're not seeing them in your email inbox, check your spam folder because we do use a third-party email service. If you're not subscribed to our newsletter, you can do so on our website to keep in the loop about what we're doing, what's going on, and of course, our webinars and our new podcast series. All webinars can be found at survivornet.ca/webinars or on CCSN's YouTube channel. So with that, I'd like to wish everyone a fantastic afternoon, and we'll see you in the next one.